Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is how astrology was used in ancient Egypt. Astrology was used very frequently by ancient civilizations, and it was often also used to construct their ancient buildings. So the observation of the stars, the heavens, the zodiac, the planets, the sun, the solstices, and incorporating this into daily life was actually a practice that evolved before religion. Essentially, religion came after astrology. So to the ancient Egyptians, astrology wasn't just a way to predict the future, it was actually woven into their culture. It was essentially part of their religion, their daily life, their architecture. So let's have a look at how the ancient Egyptians used astrology and what it actually meant to them. So as we journey back in time to ancient Egypt, we must understand that astrology had deep roots in their mythology. So the zodiac was not just an expanse of space to them, but it was filled with symbolisms of gods, and each with their own stories and powers. They believed that the stars were the spiritual representations of their deities. The ancient Egyptians aligned their agricultural activities with the heliacal rising of the star Sirius, as it coincided with the annual flooding of the Nile. So the ancient Egyptians essentially believed that the gods expressed their wills through the stars. And the stars essentially affect everything from the growth of agriculture to the flooding of the Nile to even the health of the pharaoh and the royals. So their astrological system was incorporated into their calendar, their rituals, and even their deep and complex understanding of the afterlife. So to the ancient Egyptians, the movement of the stars was a script written by the gods, and deciphering was a matter of divine understanding and survival. But what gods were they looking at, and how did they impact the ancient Egyptians' astrological view? The ancient Egyptians had a vast pantheon of gods, many of whom were intimately associated with the skies, the stars, and solar phenomena. So firstly, let's talk about Nut, the sky goddess. Nut was visualized as a woman arced over Earth, her body dotted with stars representing the night sky. Then we have Ra, the sun god, who was believed to sail across the sky each day on his solar bark and traverse the underworld at night. The rising sun was seen as Ra's rebirth, signifying the cyclical nature of time. Osiris, the god of death and the afterlife, was associated with the constellation Orion, and Isis, his wife, was linked with the bright star Sirius, whose rising signaled the start of the Nile's flood season. Nut's body held the sun during the night, safeguarding it until the next day. This signified the protective power of the night sky. Ra's daily journey symbolized the eternal cycle of life and death, and this influenced daily routines and rituals in ancient Egypt. The link between Isis and Sirius made the star's appearance critical in their calendar, agriculture, as well as in their religious festivals. The association of Osiris with Orion signified the belief in life after death and resurrection, deeply influencing their burial practices. As we all know, ancient Egypt is known for their incredibly elaborate, beautiful, grand tombs that they built for their pharaohs. Even common citizens put a lot of effort into their burial practices and safeguarding their resting place. And all of these actions were greatly influenced by their connection to the gods and their beliefs in relation to the gods. So while ancient Egyptian astrology is really different from the astrology and the zodiac that we know today, they also had their own system that resembles the zodiac. The Egyptians divided the year into 36 weeks, each represented by a specific star or constellation known as decans. So essentially, the Egyptians are the ones who created and invented the decans that we know today. Each decan was used both for calendar purposes and in the complex processes of royal timekeeping, particularly for determining the hours of the night. The 12-sign zodiac we're familiar with comes mainly from the Babylonian and later Greek astrological traditions. It's based on the 12 lunar cycles in a year and the 12 constellations the sun moves through. The Egyptian decans, on the other hand, were closely tied to their mythology, the rising and the setting of specific stars, and the agricultural cycle of the Nile floodplain. The Dendera zodiac, in my opinion, is one of the most interesting and fascinating things from ancient Egypt. The Dendera zodiac is essentially a painting that displays a unique representation of the constellations, hinting at a more elaborate system of zodiacal interpretation. It is a sculpted disc adorned with mystic symbols carved into the ceiling of the Hathor temple in Dendera. This artifact is considered to be the only complete map of the ancient sky that has survived till today. The Dendera zodiac consists of two concentric circles. The outer circle. This circle is filled with figures representing the 36 Egyptian decans. Each decan corresponds to a 10-day week in the Egyptian calendar, marking specific stars' heliacal risings throughout the year. The inner circle. This circle features traditional zodiac constellations, the same 12 we're familiar with today, although these figures are represented in a distinctly Egyptian style. The Dendera zodiac also represents a collection of other Egyptian deities and mythological beings, with figures scattered across the disc interacting with the constellations. So while we do essentially understand the basics of the Dendera zodiac, it is still essentially a work in progress and it is still being studied and inspected. So the full purpose of the Dendera zodiac still remains a mystery. However, many professionals rate that it is some kind of religious artifact and that it could have potentially been used for prophecy. So the ancient Egyptians had a sophisticated calendar system that was deeply tied to astrology. Their civil calendar consisted of 12 months of 30 days each, plus 5 additional epigamental days, making a 365-day year. These months were grouped into 3 seasons: inundation, emergence, and harvest, which corresponds to the annual cycle of the Nile River and the agricultural activities. This calendar, however, wasn't strictly solar or lunar, but was intimately connected to the star Sirius, or Sothis, as they called it. The heliacal rising of Sirius, when it first becomes visible before sunrise after moving far enough away from the sun's glare, coincided with the onset of the Nile's flood season. So this astronomical event is essentially what marked the start of their new year. So the heliacal rising of Sirius was of prime importance because of its link to the Nile flooding. This flooding brought fertile silt to their farmland, so the day was seen as a time of rebirth and renewal. Similarly, certain days represented the birthdays of particular gods and were marked for special rituals and celebrations. The last 5 days of the year, the epigamenal days, were considered particularly significant. They were believed to be the birthdays of 5 major gods: Osiris, Horus, Set, Isis, and Nephthys. So these days were essentially treated with a mix of celebration and apprehension, as they were considered to be outside the natural order of the calendar. So their understanding of the stars was also weaved into their architectural designs, especially in the iconic structures like their pyramids and temples. For example, the 3 pyramids of Giza, built as tombs for pharaohs Khufu, Khafre, are believed to be oriented with the 3 stars of Orion's belt. This is not surprising, as Orion was associated with Osiris, the god of death and rebirth, who was a major deity in the Egyptian pantheon. The layout of the pyramids was an earthly mirroring of the heavens, showing the direct influence of astrology in their architectural designs. Temples were also not just physical structures, but a representation of cosmic order. The temples were designed as the early dwelling place for the gods and were laid out to reflect the skies. The orientation, layout, and decoration of these temples often corresponded to celestial bodies or events, such as solstices or equinoxes. So while astrology was the belief system that guided the Egyptians, astronomy, the study of space and the physical universe, provided the practical knowledge necessary for the construction and alignment of their monumental structures. The pyramids are aligned to the cardinal points, which are north, south, east, and west, with remarkable accuracy. This was likely achieved through observing the rising and setting of particular stars or constellations, or the path of the sun across the sky. So how did astrology impact the daily life of the Egyptians? So the understanding of the celestial movements influenced the ancient Egyptian calendar system, which had 12 months and 30 days each, and an additional 5 epagomenal days, aligning closely with the solar year and the heliacal rising of Sirius. So Ra, the sun god, was seen to travel across the sky during the day, descend into the underworld at night, and be reborn each morning. The moon was associated with Thoth, the god of wisdom and knowledge. Prayers, offerings, and rituals were daily practices intended to appease these gods and maintain Ma'at, which is the divine order of the universe. It was also very common for ancient Egyptians to consult astrologers for guidance on matters such as planting and harvesting crops, making important decisions, and determining important dates for various activities. In ancient Egypt, astrologers and astronomers were essentially parts of the high court, and they were seen as royalty. Astrologers played an incredibly role in society back in ancient Egypt. And the ancient Egyptian culture and religion was a lot more inclusive of astrology instead of being exclusive of astrology like a lot of modern religions are. Temples often held ceremonies to align with celestial events such as solstices, equinoxes, and the appearance of particular stars or constellations. For example, the Temple of Abu Simbel, built by Pharaoh Ramses II, is aligned so that twice a year, the sun's rays reach into the inner sanctuary to illuminate statues of Ramses and the gods Ra and Amun. Astrologers also played important roles in life events such as birth and death. At birth, astrologers would cast a nativity, predicting the individual's destiny based on the positions of the stars and planets. Death, too, was intertwined with astrology. The construction of tombs and the journey of the soul to the afterlife were both influenced by astrological beliefs, as shown in the alignment of pyramids and the journey depicted in the Book of the Dead. And like I said, one of the most important ways that astrology influenced ancient Egyptians was in their burial practices. The Egyptians believed that the afterlife was a continuation of the earthly existence, and the deceased needed to be well prepared for this journey. The orientation of tombs was usually towards the west, the direction of the setting sun, and the realm of the afterlife. Inside these tombs, the walls are often adorned with celestial symbols and texts to guide the deceased in the afterlife. For example, the pyramid texts found in the pyramids of certain pharaohs from the Old Kingdom are a collection of spells and instructions for the pharaoh to navigate the afterlife, to reach the sky, and to join the company of the gods. The Book of the Dead, another key funerary text, contains spells to help the deceased's journey through the underworld and reach a heavenly afterlife. The sun and the stars feature prominently in these spells. So the Book of the Dead is essentially a piece of papyrus that gets placed within a tomb. And this particular book or piece of papyrus has very specific instructions for the soul of the person who has passed over so that they can get to the afterlife. The practice of mummification also had astrological connections. It was a very elaborate process that was aimed to preserve the body for the afterlife, symbolizing the resurrection of Osiris, which in turn was symbolized by the rebirth of Orion and Sirius in the sky. So how has ancient Egyptian astrology and their beliefs influenced our modern astrology system? So essentially, the Egyptians' observation of the stars in the skies lay a very important foundation and groundwork upon which future astrological systems emerged. So a key example of this influence is found in Hellenistic astrology, which emerged in Alexandria in the 1st century BCE as a fusion of Egyptian, Babylonian, and Greek astrological traditions. This system is the direct ancestor of the astrology that is used in the Western world today. So astrology as a concept reached its peak during the Hellenistic period, which was heavily influenced by the knowledge of the ancient Egyptians. Hellenistic astrology began using the zodiac, the band of the sky in which the movements of the sun, the moon, and the planets are contained, which has become central to modern astrology. So while the zodiac as we know it today is more directly a development of the Babylonians, the Egyptian symbolic associations of universal bodies with their gods may have influenced this development. So an example of the Egyptian influence on modern astrology is the Deccan system. The ancient Egyptians divide each of the 36 10-degree sections of the ecliptic into decans. These decans were used for their star clocks and have been incorporated into modern astrology, with each sign of the zodiac now divided into 3 decans, each with its own set of traits and influences. Another example is the Dendra zodiac. This zodiac includes depictions of the Egyptian versions of the constellations, including the 12 signs we're familiar with today. So this artifact is seen as a testament to the astrological knowledge of the ancient Egyptians and their influence on later astrological traditions. In modern astrology, we also still see echoes of Egyptian influence in the symbolic language of planets. So for example, Jupiter, known for its expansiveness and abundance, is often compared to the Egyptian god Amun-Ra, a god that is known for creativity and growth. So just like in the modern zodiac, the ancient Egyptians also had their zodiac, which had 12 different archetypes. So essentially what this means is we all have an ancient Egyptian zodiac sign. So instead of using the symbolisms in the signs that we have in our zodiac, they used gods. So in Egyptian astrology, your zodiac sign is linked to a specific god. So what is your Egyptian zodiac sign? The first sign is known as Hapi. People born between January 1 to 7, June 19 to 28, September 1 to 7, and November 18 to 26 belong to this sign. Hapi is known as the god of the source of the Nile. These people are incredibly kind, insightful, and passionate individuals. These individuals are known as teachers, and they're ruled by the moon and Uranus. The Western zodiac sign associated with Hapi is Sagittarius. The second sign is Amun-Ra. People born between January 8 to 21 and February 1 to 11 belong to this sign. Amun-Ra is the king of the gods. These people are discreet, confident, and polite individuals. They excel in financial roles, and Saturn and the Sun rules them. The Western zodiac sign associated with Amun-Ra is Taurus. The third sign is Mut. People born between January 22 and 31 and September 8 and 22 belong to this sign. Mut is the mother goddess, and it represents individuals who are generous, loyal, and affectionate. These people also do very well in financial professions, and their ruling planet is the Sun. The Western zodiac sign associated with Mut is Scorpio. The fourth sign is Geb. This sign belongs to people born between February 12 to 29 and August 20 to 31. Geb is the earth god, and these people are usually sensitive, faithful, and very open and connected to nature. They do very well in professions that involve justice, and their ruling planet is the earth. The Western zodiac sign associated with Geb is Libra. The fifth sign is Osiris. People born from March 1 to 10, and then from November 27 to December 18 belong to this sign. Osiris is the god of the underworld and resurrection. These people have strong, independent personalities. These people also make really good teachers, and their ruling planet is Pluto and the Sun. The Western zodiac sign associated with Osiris is Aries. The sixth sign is Isis. Those born between March 11 to 31, October 18 to 29, and December 19 to 31 belong to this sign. Isis is the goddess of healing, magic, and protection. These individuals are playful, creative, and honest people. They do well in creative and art-based professions, and their ruling planet is the moon, the earth, and Uranus. The Western zodiac sign associated with Isis is Pisces. The seventh sign is Thoth. People belonging to this sign are born from April 1 to 19 and November 8 to 17. Thoth is the god of writing, science, and magic. These people are usually very wise, very intelligent, and incredibly romantic. They do very well in professions that involve justice as well as teaching. Their ruling planet is the Moon and Mercury, and the Western zodiac sign associated with both is Virgo. The 8th sign is Horus. People born between April 20 and May 7th and August 12th and 19th belong to the sign of Horus. Horus is the sky god, and these individuals are incredibly ambitious, optimistic, and courageous. They do very well in public-facing and political roles, and the ruling planets are the Moon and the Sun. The zodiac sign associated with Horus is Capricorn. The 9th sign in the Egyptian zodiac is Anubis. Those born between May 8 and 27 and June 29 to July 13 belong to this sign. Anubis is the god of mummification. These individuals are usually quite introverted, but also very curious. They do very well in jobs where they can help other people by counseling them and giving them advice. Their ruling planet is Mercury, and their Western zodiac sign is Leo. The 10th zodiac sign is Seth. Those born between May 28 and June 18 and September 28 and October 2 belong to this sign. Seth is the god of chaos and violence. These individuals are incredibly bold and perfectionistic. They do very well leading and teaching others, and their ruling planet is Mars. The Western zodiac sign associated with Seth is Gemini. The 11th sign in the Egyptian zodiac is Bastard. Those born between July 14 and 28 and September 23 to 27 and October 3 to 17th belong to this sign. Bastard is the goddess of cats, fertility, and sense. These individuals think very deeply and they have strong intuition. They make really good writers and poets, and their ruling planets are the Sun and the Moon. The Western zodiac sign associated with Bastard is Cancer. And then the last sign in the Egyptian zodiac is Sekhmet. Those born between July 29 to August 11 and October 30 to November 7 belong to this sign. So Sekhmet is the goddess of war and the destroyer of the enemies of the sun god. These people are incredibly extroverted, lively, positive, and incredibly wise. They make very good entertainers, actors, and musicians, and the ruling planet is the sun. The Western zodiac sign associated with Sekhmet is Aquarius. I personally believe that we can learn a lot from the ancient Egyptians, as well as ancient civilizations. We have really lost our connections with our roots. And these ancient civilizations can essentially point us into the right direction to reconnect ourselves with our roots. So the ancient Egyptians really emphasized the importance of astrology, and I still believe that we should do this to this day. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, let me know in the comments what you thought of it, and subscribe to my channel if you have not already. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.